Okay, going live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this module for actually flying of the aircraft as walk around inspections, and a short presentation on some in-flight video here. For those of you that have been around for previous sessions today, you've already heard these housekeeping rules, but for those of you that are just joining us, I need to go over a few things. Please visit the Illinois Wing website for more information on today's presenters and presentations. There's a bio from all the presenters there. Reminder, all times are scheduled in the Central Time Zone for those of you that are in different time zones across the country. If you are attending the conference for CAP credit, remember to complete the E&T survey at the end of the day. A link for that is at the bottom of the conference schedule. Only one survey needs to be completed for the entire day, not per session like they did at the national conference if you participated in that. There will be 4 lucky attendees selected to receive a door prize, which will be an Amazon gift card. However, you must register, of course, on the main website to be eligible. The Sunday winners, today's winners, will be selected and announced at the 3:50 hangar time slot. To see who yesterday's winners were, they are available on the website, the conference website. And after the conference, you will be receiving a feedback survey. So please take a few minutes to let us know what you thought of the conference overall and the presenters. So without further ado, I will ask this is going to be a recorded presentation. However, Captain Gary Brown and myself are standing by to answer any questions you might have in the chat box. And there will be a debriefing session after the videos are complete. So. The presenters are Lieutenant Colonel Joe Long. He is the Wing Director of Operations for Illinois Wing.
Yeah, John, I'm having trouble sharing. It's telling me bad network quality.
Major Rod Rakic, who is one of our Civil Air Patrol check pilots. So they're both very experienced pilots with the organization. So without further ado, we'll go into the video. Our apologies for the delay here. We're trying to get the video queued up here. As soon as we can, we'll be ready to go.
Oh, there's something very faint in the background.
Gary, is it possible that you share the video? Every time I try to sync the audio, it kills the presentation.
Sure, I'll take a stab at it if you can give me just a
Thank
moment
you.
here.
Hello, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Joe Long, Director of Operations for the Illinois Wing from Chicago. Today, we're going to give you a virtual tour of 3 of the Illinois Wing aircraft, the 172, the Cessna 182, and the Gippsland GA-8. All right, the first airplane we're going to talk about is the Cessna 172. It's 180 horsepower, one of our primary trainers for cadets. So the wing is what produces the lift. On the back of the wing, on the outboard side, we've got ailerons. And on the inboard side, we have flaps. The ailerons are what rolls the airplane in a turn, and the flaps, those come down, and we'll show you later, those in action on the GA-8. Those increase lift, but also increase drag to let us fly a steeper, slower approach into airports. And we've got a number of antennas on top for the communication with ATC, air traffic control, towers, and things like that. We've also, all our airplanes have global positioning systems, or GPS. And this antenna here is for the emergency locating transmitter, or the ELT. On the bottom, this aircraft is a little older, so it has an older type of electronic direction finding to find downed airplanes, to find an ELT when it's going off. Let's take a quick look in the cockpit and see the layout of the instrument. All right, here we are in the cockpit of the 172. We got our airspeed indicator, tells us how fast we're going. Our attitude indicator tells us our orientation level to the ground. Our altimeter, which tells us how high we are. Down below that, we have our vertical speed indicator, tells us how fast we're climbing or descending. Next, we have our directional gyro, or compass, and that tells us the direction we're heading. Over here, our turn and slip indicator tells us if we're flying level, and if we're in a turn, how fast we're turning. Engine instruments are over here, tells us how much fuel we have. Standard clock. Suction gauge, which runs these instruments, tells us that we have enough air running through the vacuum system. And then we've got our oil temperature, which tells us how hot the engine is, and the pressure to make sure that we have enough oil in the system. And down below that, not sure if you can see it, but we have our RPM, or basically tells us how fast the engine and the propeller is turning. Moving over here, we have our 3 navigation instruments, tells us if we're on course from either our GPS unit or our radio navigation, which is over here. Here's how we tune in our radios, what radio we're talking to or talking on. So our GPS tells us our position, and if we plug in a flight plan, it tells us if we're on course or not, in addition to our navigation instruments. Down below that, we have our communication radios and navigation radios. Radio stations on the ground that we can tune in a frequency, and it tells us the direction they're at, and if we're tracking a course, whether we're on course or not. So we have our communication radio number 1 and nav 1, communication radio number 2, and navigation radio number 2. Over here, we've got our cap radio, and that allows us to talk to our mission base or ground teams that we're working with to find a target. Down below that is our direction finding equipment. This is an old school one, and basically we center these needles to find the direction of an emergency locating transmitter that we're trying to find. So that's about it in the 172, very simple. Let's move over to the 182. Here we have our Cessna 182 Skylane. One of the biggest differences that jumps out at folks right away is this has a 3-bladed prop. It's turned by a bigger engine. This is 210 horsepower. This airplane is about 20% heavier than the 172. Requires a high performance rating in the aircraft. And this is our primary search and rescue aircraft. Okay, the 182, like I mentioned before, it's a bigger engine, 210 horsepower. We've got more controls. Whereas in the 172, we just have the throttle and the mixture. In the 182, and any variable pitch aircraft, we have a propeller control. Here we're looking at the tire of the GA-8 Airvan. This is an Australian designed aircraft built to go fly in the outback of Australia. These big tires can make even the hardest landings seem soft. Okay, moving to the aft section of the GA-8 Airvan, it's a bigger airplane. It can seat 6 passengers, and we've got a huge cargo door that slides open. We have 6 seats. This one is configured with 5 seats, and they can be removed for cargo or, in this configuration, to carry passengers. We've got huge side windows, which makes it the ideal aircraft for aerial photography and looking for downed aircraft. All right, here we are in the cockpit of the GA-8 Airvan. One of the biggest differences from the other aircraft you see is that we have a glass cockpit. We've got all our indicators from airspeed, attitude indicator, altimeter, as well as our directional gyro, and it inputs navigation information to tell us if we're on course or off course. All the information from all those 6 packs is right in there. Over here, again, we have our Becker, our Doppler digital indicator to find our ELTs and find our target we're looking for. Another altimeter for backup, and our cap radio, which allows us to talk to our mission base, our ground teams, and we can plug in Air Force frequencies as well. And because the GA-8 Airvan is a bigger airplane with a more powerful engine, we've got a different type of throttle quadrant, same as the 182, but we've got our throttle, our prop controls, and our mixture control. In addition to that, we've got an overhead switch panel. We've got our power, lights, and circuit protection for the airplane. It's a lot of fun to fly, and we can take it into small airports as well as the big ones.
What makes flying with the Civil Air Patrol different than flying with the flying club?
With Civil Air Patrol, we've got a reason to fly. You're flying with other people and with a crew. It's a way to give back to the community, using your pilot skills to give back to the community. It's very rewarding.
And I have the second video I could stage for us as well, unless you wanted to comment on the video that was just played.
Do we have any questions on that first video regarding anything that was discussed in it?
I am not seeing any questions at this time.
Okay, then we can play the second video.
Okay, let me try to cue this up, and while I'm doing that, I'll explain what folks are about to see. And that is that third aircraft that you saw in the first video, the Airvan, the GA-8 Airvan, that was that Australian manufactured aircraft. The 2 gentlemen that you just saw in the video are going to go fly it for you. And this is a video of them flying it into a soft field. So you'll see a landing as they approach the airport, and then a departure from the airport in the Airvan. Fun aircraft to fly. So stand by.
DC traffic, Cap 1170 G8 Airvan is left downwind, runway 36, DC.
All right, first notch of flaps. Here's coming rich. Good. Gas, undercarriage, non-welded mixture, and props. Floor landing checks complete. We are abeam. Be a full stop taxi back. Copy.
Bigfoot traffic, Bushcat 6 Bravo Charlie, 2 miles east, inbound for runway 36, Bigfoot.
DC traffic, Cap 1170 left base, 36, DC.
Finals clear.
All traffic, Cessna 960, 45 left downwind, runway 36 o'clock.
Like a slight crosswind out on the right.
Vegas, 72662 is 6 miles to the southwest. Will be maneuvering to join the 45 left downwind, runway 36 o'clock.
This bird makes it easy. All right, mixture rich. Fuel pumped on.
DC traffic, Cap 1170. Runway Blue G8 Airvan is departing runway 36, left close traffic, DC.
I have 72662 to the southwest. Will be maneuvering to join behind you guys.
All right, flaps are up.
Hey, looks like it worked. And Georgia, or Bill, I don't know which one of you, I see that there were some questions rolling across. So I don't know if there's anything that was worth bringing up here for discussion after the videos.
Yeah, one of the biggest questions was, is there a standard Garmin unit in Civil Air Patrol airplanes? And I responded by saying the basic unit is the Garmin 430. The newer airplanes have slightly newer units, maybe a Garmin 500 series or 520 series, but the major exception being the newest airplanes are equipped with the Garmin 1000s, and those are quite a bit different to operate. So there's a separate training school for the Garmin 1000 powered airplanes.
Yeah, and I would add that there is some standardization across some of the GPSs. Again, as George just mentioned, they do vary a little bit from model to model, and the standard is the new nice G1000 system. But they are fairly well standardized. There's about 4, I think, that you'd be training on. Again, whether you're a cadet doing flight training with Civil Air Patrol or you're a private pilot flying for Civil Air Patrol. And we do provide training on all systems.
One additional question came in. They want to know, do you need a different type of pilot's license to fly a G8 Airvan?
George, I didn't know if you wanted me to take that one or you.
Go ahead, Gary.
So the only thing that's required to fly the Airvan that's different than, say, the 172 and the 182 that you saw in the first video, the first two models, and then the larger model is the 8-passenger Airvan. The only thing that's different in the requirements for it are that you absolutely must have a medical certificate for that one. You can't fly that one on what we call the new basic med program. You're limited to 4-passenger seats on that aircraft or on that medical certificate. So you do require a standard, at least 3rd class medical certificate to fly that. And then, of course, it is considered, I don't want to call it a complex, but high performance is the phrase I'm looking for.
Right.
So it would require a high performance endorsement to fly that, but that's also true of the 182 as well. But the main difference there is you must have a medical certificate to fly that aircraft. Otherwise, for all the other airframes that we have, a basic med will suffice. And George, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, that's correct, Gary. Nope, you covered it well. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, the biggest thing about getting the high performance sign off is there's no hard time requirement from the FAA, but if you're going to get a complex airplane rating, which would include retractable landing gear and that, the FAA does require 10 flight hours of training with an instructor to get a complex airplane sign off. And even though there's no hard published regulation as far as the high performance sign off, they're kind of leaning towards that 10-hour requirement.
Yeah, and I would also add too, for any cadets, non-members, and pilots that may be in attendance here on the session as well, and you don't have your high performance endorsement. That is something that our instructor pilots can assist with as well. And again, working towards those minimum hours that George was just talking about, that's all stuff that we can assist you with as you progress through your pilot career within CAP. Were there any other questions that rolled in?
There's another one, Gary, about is there a required number of hours needed to fly the GA-8?
Ooh, a good question. I believe, and I'm trying to, because we went through some supplemental changes in regulations and then they kind of rolled back and forth a little bit, so that's why I'm hemming and hawing here a little bit. But I believe the hours requirement are identical across the 182s and the Airvan now. Didn't always used to be that way, but as it stands right now, if you can qualify to fly a 182, and again, the 182 requires that high performance endorsement, then you can also get instruction and get qualified to fly the Airvan as well. And while we're talking about hours requirements, anybody can get checked out, again, as long as you have basic qualifications to fly the aircraft at any number of hours, provided you have the pilot's license and many applicable medical certificates, and get a checkout from us. In order to actually do what we call transport mission work, where you're a transport mission pilot moving materials and persons, or moving our airframes around for maintenance or relocation, that just requires 100 hours of flight time. And then for those that want to go to the next level of service to the community and the nation through volunteer service as a pilot, there's what we call the mission pilot qualification that allows you to do what we're probably best known for, which is, search and rescue, disaster recovery, and that requires 200 hours of flight experience.
Yeah, so most of the training that we do in the airplanes and the different groups, if you already have the high performance sign off from your flight instructor on that, the training basically consists of about an hour and a half of flight, in addition to ground school, obviously, in the aircraft itself for training purposes, and then depending how that goes, your next flight would be for your Civil Air Patrol sign off to fly that type of an airplane. And as you're getting qualified, you do need to take a separate check ride in each airplane model. So if you take your first check ride, for example, in the Cessna 182, that does not automatically qualify you to fly the Cessna 172. So you would have to take a separate, what we call Form 5 check ride in the Cessna 172, and then again another separate check ride in the GA-8 in the Airvan. So, but then once you complete your initial qualification in each of those aircraft, the following year, when it comes time to renew your pilot certifications in Civil Air Patrol, we do have to take a check ride every year, every 12 months, as opposed to the biennial flight review required by the FAA. CAP requires us to take a check ride every year annually. Once if you took the check ride in the higher performance aircraft, for example, if you took your check ride in the Cessna 182, that would also qualify you, renew your qualification to fly the Cessna 172 as well as the GA-8. However, if you took your check ride in a non-high performance airplane such as the 172, you would still have to take another check ride in the high performance airplane to renew the high performance qualification. So a little bit of a sticky wicket there, but we can certainly walk you through all that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And again, these are all great airframes to do either primary instruction in, or as George was just mentioning, climbing that ladder as you progress in your aviation career. It's with your interest or with Civil Air Patrol, or to go on beyond us and go off to military or airline as well. Great aircraft to transition in. And again, I guess that would bring me to my other point on these airframes that you just saw for the powered aircraft. They're not obviously only good for training. One of our missions obviously is emergency services for disaster recovery and search and rescue, and they make spectacular platforms for that. Right, they're not too fast and not too slow. They have good cargo and weight carrying capabilities. Very versatile in the configurations that we can do. We can mount cameras both internally, externally, and there's some amazing stuff that we're attaching to these airframes. So again, very versatile, very easy to fly airframes for training our cadets and senior members for that matter, and the emergency services that we provide to the community.
And it doesn't look like any new questions have come in.
Okay, well, we're 32 minutes after the hour, which is probably okay, even though we had some technical difficulties, and that's okay too. Thanks for sticking with us, everybody that stuck in for the presentations. Again, hopefully you got a good taste for the airframes that we have available, especially for our cadet training and for the emergency services that we provide. And anybody who's on the presentation that is not a Civil Air Patrol member, again, some of the stuff that probably flew across your screen, you may have gotten or you may not have gotten, because there was a lot of jargon being thrown around in there. That's okay. Just remember that if you're interested in the organization and everything that you saw, and this looks interesting to you, want to get involved, you think it would be fun to sit in the right seat of the aircraft or in the back and assist on our missions, those are all things that we can help get you started in the program with and on, and you too can provide, lend your support and your expertise in the air in service to the community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone.